Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another SAE Government Technologies LinkedIn Live event. My name is Mark Pickett, and I'm the host, as well as the Technology Transfer Program Manager for SAE Government Technologies. As an affiliate of SAE Industry Technologies Consortia, or ITC, SAE Government Technologies collaborates with government, industry, and academia to solve the toughest mobility technical challenges. We're here today with Darcyne Foldenauer. She's the Director of Automated Vehicle Safety Consortium at SAE ITC. We're talking about autonomous vehicle safety today. But before we begin, I'd like to recognize a couple of colleagues. First of all, Charlie is the guy behind the green curtain controlling this fantastic event, and Tracy's also involved in helping us moderate. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce Darcyne Foldenauer.
Hi, Mark. Thank you very much. I appreciate that warm welcome, and I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Please tell us about your role and what you do.
So for those who are not familiar, I am the director of the AVSC, which is, as Mark mentioned, the Automated Vehicle Safety Consortium. The AVSC is comprised of engineering and technology company or organizations and members that are in the automated vehicle space. They represent manufacturers, developers, fleet operators, and they bring a wealth of knowledge and decades of experience in launching safer, innovative mobility technologies. So as far as what I do, well, as the director, I'm involved in and oversee all aspects of the AVSC day-to-day operations, the development of the best practices that we work on, membership oversight, communications internally and externally, participating in outreach efforts just like this one. And I also act as a spokesperson for the consortium, as well as managing all the budgetary planning. And that's just a few areas. I could probably go on, but that kind of gives you an overall idea.
Yeah, so I think autonomous vehicles and safety is an important topic, but maybe in your own words, can you describe the importance of this consortium?
You know, our mission is really to advance safer testing, development, and deployment of automated vehicles. And I think the importance of it is, you know, we try to fulfill this mission by aligning our members around some critical issues in the industry. We help them to reach consensus. And what's interesting is most of these members are all competitors, but they come together and collaborate in order to publish and put out these best practices that hopefully will lead to broader adoption and ultimately to formalize standards globally.
Yeah, it's nice to see industry participants coming together on safety in a non-competitive environment. So that's fantastic. You know, before we get into the details, I want to pause for a minute and highlight your role as director of this consortium. As a diversity, equity, and inclusion champion here at SAE, I'd like to get your perspective as a woman and how important it is for young women to see you in this role.
Wow. You know, I've been in the automotive industry for over 30 years. And when I look back over the landscape of when I started, it was much different than what our younger generations are seeing today. You know, frequently I would be the only woman sitting in meetings with technicians, engineers, and managers. And these were my peers at the time. And I always felt that I had to work harder than most to really earn the respect of my colleagues and even my management team. One of the things, though, my father had taught me early on is that, you know, with hard work and persistence, it's always going to pay off. And he is right. That's one thing that I've learned. I've been told over the years that I can be very pertinacious, which I've been told is a healthy combination of persistent and tenacious. So I think the key is what I would hope that young women would see is please pursue STEM programs and to let them know I'm here today, even after I had certain folks who told me no one would ever take me serious because of the way I look. To that, I say, do what you love and don't let others define who you are. It really, you need to go after what you want to do, and don't let other people frame you, put you in a frame in a certain way. So
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I was going to mention, Mark, too, I've actively been mentoring women for the past several years through an organization called Mentium. And it's a year-long program where we work with, they work with all individuals. I choose and ask for young women, especially because of my experience.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I'm glad you brought up your father, because I have a daughter as well. And although she didn't choose a career in STEM, she does have her own business. So I'm pretty proud of her. So thanks for taking the time to address that topic, because I think it's important. So who are the members of AVSC, and what are the advantages and maybe even the challenges when you get them all in the same room?
So sure. Our current members are Aurora, Daimler and Torque, GM and Cruise. We have Lyft, Motional, Uber, Volkswagen, Waymo, and Zoox. Thank you, Charlie, for putting that up there. So you can see all our members at the bottom of our website there. As far as advantages go, I think most of our members would agree that they have a wealth of information that is available to them cross-functionally, especially through our SAE affiliation, but also through each of the members. I mean, that's part of being able to share with these member organizations. The other advantage is that they bring decades of experience, and they're all focused on similar issues, which is on being safer, reliable, and high quality transportation. They work to collaborate on topics, even though they are competitors. The idea is, within our group, we try to allow for pressure testing of ideas. So we get some dialogue and communication going in our work group meetings. And I think it's a safe place for our members to do that. We also get some buy-in with members regarding implementation of our best practices in some manner. So, depending on whether they're a developer, manufacturer, fleet operator, it might be a little bit different for each. But in some manner, they sign up to follow these best practices. And I think another area where we have some advantage is our membership is smaller. As you can see, we have 9 member organizations right now, and it allows us to reach a consensus, at a faster pace than most of the global standards organizations, where you have many varied opinions. With our membership being smaller, we can actually get all of them to come together and get our best practices published much faster. So the other part is we do have some defined but also flexible processes that allow us to gain this agreement on these topics in order to get to publication as well. As far as challenges go, I think the biggest challenge that our members probably would see is that, we discuss what to do. We can agree on topics, but at times, it can be a challenge to keep the topics in the document broad enough so that it can be applicable for all of our members, but still leaving an avenue for how they may apply it, follow it, or implement it. So that is probably one of the biggest challenges I think we face.
And I can't help myself. Who's your favorite member?
Well, that seems that's like asking who's your favorite child. Of course, I love them all equally.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So, no, thanks for describing the membership and talking about the advantages of the consortium and some of the challenges. Tell us about the importance of creating best practices. I mean, what's the goal there?
AVs are still in early stages of implementation along with standards. So these best practices allow our members to address some of these topics in areas where definitions and standards are still being defined. And they're needed. They're needed to aid the industry in how we talk about, manage, and view autonomous vehicles. Um, you know, these best practices also offer us a way to communicate to different and various stakeholders on how our members are addressing safety on different issues, a multitude of issues. So, members and others also implement these best practices. So we put these out there. You're able to download them for free, and I saw Charlie had our little banner up there at one point. So they're available to everybody because we want others, and we know that others are pulling them down and using them as well. So it's not just for our members; it's to help hopefully guide the industry. They help to ensure safety is a priority, and that we have processes established around these AVs to help minimize risk to the AVs and the users and those around them. And also to build trust with the public by showing that our members are committed to safety. I think it's important that they see that we have a standards to build on, because ultimately our goal is to build public trust and acceptance of automated vehicles as a safe and beneficial form of transportation.
Exactly. I think public trust is really key to adoption, right? And I'll just highlight that Tracy put in the chat there the place to download the best practices. So thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Tracy, for that. What's the biggest, in the context of building trust, what's the biggest concern with implementing autonomous vehicles from your perspective?
I think from just watching what we've been going through, it would be public acceptance. It's a challenge. People want to know that these vehicles are safe, as whether they're riding in one of them or whether they see one on the roads. And it is definitely a topic. I think I've been to a lot of conferences where you always hear, what is safe? What is safe enough? So that is definitely a topic that a lot of people are looking at. And until you can define that clearly, I think it's always going to be a challenge getting the public to accept AVs.
Yeah. What's the most important thing the consortium can do, or the members can do, to alleviate the public's concern about safety?
Yeah, the biggest one is communication. I believe our members really need to focus on communicating about what they're doing, how they follow our best practices, and all the efforts that they go into helping build them into global standards. As well as, showing our members are willing to set aside normal organizational competition to collaborate and to develop these best practices. I mean, hopefully, if we can get the word out and people understand what we're doing, I think that would help increase some trust there. And then I think our members should also be sharing their stories on testing and validation, especially compared to the human driving statistics. We hear a lot of things in the news about AVs. What's be nice to see is that our members start to show it in comparison to the statistics we see with incidents just in normal human driving, and compare that to what we see in AVs and some of the testing that they've been doing. And then lastly, I would say to continue to create these best practices and to implement them and to work to develop them into standards that everybody's following formally.
Right. Okay. Maybe you could get into some of the recent best practices that have been developed and published.
Sure. Yeah, we've had a good year. We recently just published in August, developing safety performance thresholds based on human driving. So this is a best practice. It provides some tools for establishing quantitative performance reference values that can be integrated into a broader safety assurance framework for ADS. And by using the framework and data analysis processes that are in this best practice, manufacturers and developers could build evidence and make a case for the safety of their system. The reference values that are established throughout the framework within this best practice provide some additional meaning to the safety performance metrics and behavioral competencies that we describe in other AVSC best practices that would have been published previously. So it kind of builds up into a very comprehensive approach to how they're going to evaluate safety and performance. And then prior to that one, in July, we had published continuous monitoring and improvement after deployment. So for that one, the safety performance of ADS-TVs is expected really to evolve over time, but large volumes of operational data that are produced by these can be analyzed to identify patterns as well as anomalies. So in this best practice, we suggest that these results can be indicative of actual or potential performance changes. And in the future, any iterative improvements to the ADS performance could occur. Deployed as software updates, could be over the air or otherwise, or hardware updates that have been enabled by new data or technology advancements. And ideally, I think we all understand it's expected that these AVs are going to encounter scenarios and situations that occasionally do challenge its perception. So these types of events may be due to changes in the operating environment that maybe were unknown or unaccounted at the time. We do offer up an example within the best practice of coming across maybe some construction equipment that wasn't previously there, and just giving an example of how to manage through that. It could be due to incorrect assumptions that were made about the ADS's performance. So what we suggest is capturing and analyzing performance data from these scenarios, and then use that to continuously monitor and update their fleets, overall continuously improving their systems. So those are the last two that we had just published.
And how many total now?
So we're up to 12. And we are working on one, hopefully. I can't get into too much details because we don't speak about it too much until we publish. But I would say watch over the next couple of weeks. We have one that is going out to vote from our membership, and hopefully we'll be publishing another one at the end of this month.
Excellent. Like you said, it's been a fantastic year in terms of progress. So in addition to public trust, I know that there are government stakeholders, right, that are very interested in our progress. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So one of the stakeholders would be NHTSA, and we try to keep a good relationship with them. We recently, previously, we had been having, before any best practice would be published, we try to reach out to NHTSA and have a preview of that with them and to get their feedback. But we've had some discussions and had some agreement that they would now meet with us quarterly rather than just waiting until we have a best practice. Because what we're finding is we like to take their feedback. We like to have open dialogue and discussion. And we like to listen to their feedback and look for areas and topics that NHTSA feels might be beneficial to the public, or maybe enhance some of the already released best practices that we have out there. So I think most encouraging is during one of our meetings earlier this year, NHTSA had actually asked AVSC to come back and provide some feedback on some of the studies that they have underway, and what factors or variables would have been helpful to our members. So this happened to be for naturalistic driving studies, and some basically where they're monitoring people and human behavior and how that would have assisted us. So this is the type of collaboration really that helps to drive consideration of some of our future topics. So it's been very worthwhile.
Good. I know most of our audience understands who NHTSA is, but could you just define that acronym for the folks in the audience?
Sure. It's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Thank you.
And most people know them as NHTSA. We hear about them all the time when they're making recalls, usually to automakers. You hear a lot about them.
Thank you. So we're up to 12 best practices. Can you describe how the consortium chooses topics to work on and what that process looks like?
Yeah, actually, we're currently knee deep in the process of going through this exercise. Each year, a list of topics is developed. Some of those are suggested by AVSC staff based on feedback we receive throughout the year from sometimes out external or regulatory bodies, and others are from members. And we generate this list to start with. We ask each of the members to go in and add to that topics list. We give them a pretty fairly lengthy amount of time. So we start this activity in October. And right now, we are going to be wrapping up tomorrow, taking all those topics. And we will then ask them to go in and to rank them, to put some scores in based on 3 categories. So the first category is the priority of that topic to their organization. And then the second category would be what they feel the priority would be to the public as a trust factor. And then the third category is how easy do they see the membership reaching consensus? So it's kind of a challenge score. And the reason we have that one in there is because we can have all the great topics, know that they're going to be something that the public needs to see. But again, as I mentioned earlier, one of our advantages is we try to get our best practices published rather quickly. So our goal is to get 4 out every year. And if we can do that, we can help drive and guide the industry. Well, by putting this challenge rating on there, it helps us to understand if we think they're going to be able to reach consensus, because there are some topics that are more challenging than others. And so we try to, at least throughout the year, pick at least one that we feel will be a little bit more challenging, might take us a little bit longer. And then we try to pick others that are going to be a little bit easier to reach consensus so we can at least get the information out and published to everybody. So once we do that and we ask them to score, the AVSC staff then takes that data and we sort it. We help to narrow it down to what we feel are the top 3 or 4 topics, and we review that with our membership. We talk about it at our annual meeting, and then we submit it to the membership for a vote afterwards once we feel like we have an idea that they're on board with what we're thinking, and then we vote on what we think the 2 work groups will be to get kicked off. And I think it's important that everybody understands that, because we've had a lot of folks ask us, but there are some challenging topics. And it's important to know that we go through a very rigorous process of going through and determining which ones would make the most sense.
Thanks, Darcyne. And so I would bet it's a function of the complexity of the topic, but give the audience a sense of what does that look like in terms of beginning to end, in terms of time period to get through that process?
Well, we start in October trying to get members thinking about it. We're at the point, once they finish the scoring here in November, AVSC staff will take December, probably a couple weeks, to go through and do all the sorting. We'll present it to the members. And by the time we wrap up in January, we will present to them what we think is the top. And at the end of January, we'll take a vote. And then our goal is to get our work groups kicked off and moving by February. So you're talking about maybe 3 months of time that we put into understanding the topics and defining which ones we're going to work on next year.
Yeah. So I know that you don't want to talk about best practices before they're published, but what kind of topics do you see as priorities for the calendar year 2024?
We have a variety of topics that we have on our list, but I think we've heard a lot of feedback on data. So we're hoping we can get our members on board to maybe look at a topic involving some form of data sharing. So that is one topic. Post-incident response is another. That is something we've heard about and received a lot of feedback over the past year on from different individuals and organizations. So other things on the list, though, include just managing our safety systems. Trying to think what other ones I had, but I think those are probably the most important, or the two that I mentioned that we've been looking at.
Thank you. And so maybe give us a sense of what the members are saying about their involvement. Do you get feedback from them about their experience?
Absolutely. And it's interesting. This year, we actually decided to get very focused feedback. We would conduct a survey. So in August, we actually reached out to all of our members and asked them very specific questions, 4 questions. One, how they are applying and utilizing our best practices. If they feel that they are adding significant value, and how within their organization. And then, is there something that AVSC staff could do better to represent them? And then the last one was just any comments or suggestions for improvement. It was probably one of the best, I would say, activities that we did this year. By getting the feedback from our members, we actually created an action plan where we started addressing their concerns, or I wouldn't say there were a lot of high concerns, but just suggestions for improvement. Simple things like, if one of our members couldn't be at one of our work group meetings, is it possible to share the recording? Because we do record our work groups typically only for minutes. But we did get agreement that yes, that would be a great idea, because some of our work group members might be located in India and have a hard time attending our work group meetings because we're doing it on Eastern time. So yeah, we've had a lot of positive feedback. And we offer them the survey, but I also do regular touch points with our points of contact. And then also the subject matter experts, or we refer to them as SMEs in the work groups, also are able to reach out to our principal engineers regularly to give feedback.
Excellent. So I want to remind the audience that they have the ability to type a question in the comments section for Darcyne. And I think I have one here. How do I become a member of the consortium?
Well, that's good. We actually have a email address. So it's a AVSC info. And I think hopefully we could pop that on the screen. There you go. At the AVSC info, sae-itc.org. So if people were to reply to that, we monitor all of those emails that come through, and we have received people who are interested, and we will usually set up a discussion with them. We go through a process where we'll send a questionnaire and they fill out the questionnaire. These have questions that ask them really about their business, how they would contribute to the organization, to the consortium, and in what way. So very pointed questions. Once we're done having that discussion and going through kind of an exploring membership discussion with them, it then does get turned over to our strategic leadership team that we have within the consortium. And they look at that questionnaire and determine if it would be an appropriate fit and if we should extend an invitation to that organization.
Thank you. I'm actually getting a question through my email. So best practices seem like a suggestion, where standards is more of a requirement. Can you talk about a transition from a best practice to maybe a formal standard in the future, and what's that going to take?
Yeah, so our goal ultimately, and actually we say it's probably one of the best form of flattery, is to have some of these groups take our best practices and start to turn them into a formal global standard. We have an instance of that right now. We actually have an information report, SMS, so Safety Management System Information Report. And that one, ORAD committee had just kicked off a task force related to SMS. So it's not solely based on our best practice. It's based on a few other standards as well, but ours is in there. And we actually have our principal engineer, who is Matthew Chi, is one of the task force members are participating as SAE staff engineer. So he's participating to hopefully help get some of that content into that formal standard. And that is our intent. We've heard that, yes, it's a guideline, but keep in mind that our members, when they join, they sign up to follow, implement, or as applicable, these best practices. So some of our members, most of them, take these very seriously, and they do follow those more than just a guideline or suggestion.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Darcyne. Audience, please type your questions in the comments area of StreamYard here on LinkedIn. Again, the download for best practices is avsc.sae-itc.org. I think it's still there, available in the comments section. Darcyne, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to talk with us about something so important, which is the safety around automated vehicles. And we look forward to seeing a lot more best practices being published next year, and ultimately standards developed to earn the public's trust and to ensure that government agencies are behind us. So thanks again for your time. I believe this has been recorded. If anybody has additional questions, you can email me. I think my email can be popped up here on the screen. I did get a couple of questions through my inbox, but there it is, mark.pickett@sae-itc.org. So Darcyne, thanks a lot. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to seeing more outcomes, positive outcomes from the AVSC.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good afternoon.
See you too.